government or governments are run by conspiracies. Governments are run through psychological operations. It is prudent and it is important for people to understand, even this country we are in, we have psychological operations people sitting somewhere on trying to strategize on the way forward for this country. Two, when I talk of conspiracy, it means that if I'm the president today, and with my aspiration, by there I'm aspiring to be the Kenyan president 2027, the youngest millennial, so the ODM. So I'm saying that if today I want to be the president of this country, or I'm the president of this country, one of the things that somebody need to check is the conspiracy you're using suitable for you and the people? The moment you do not balance the two, then some things erupt. Let me say this on the matters, the CS. It is irrational that today you dismiss people from a job, and then all of a sudden you are recalling some of them. They have not gone to court, they have not done anything. And I want to tell Kenyans, millennial Gen Zs and any other generation in this country, that that operation was a psychological approach to subsidize the hit that Gen Zs and millennial or people who want change in this country had brought in. I'm saying that because I want you to view it this way, that you are demanding for this. And then again, our president, Mr. Ruto, is one of the most opportunistic person you'll ever meet. I would say that. But the problem, the challenge here is that he took advantage of what? Of the push by Gen Zs and millennials to attack or to remove his enemies within the cabinet. Because most of these people you see from the cabinet, today ODM, they are demanding 4 people.
Were they really his enemies? Because when he was appointing them, they were really...
let me tell you,
okay,
you can never just be appointed as a cabinet secretary. Today, ODM is demanding 4. Today, there are wrangles within the Azimio. Why? The ODM needs 4 people, included in that cabinet secretary. Other people. So, any person becoming a cabinet secretary is not by merit. And that is why we are advocating for changing this country, because we want a meritocratic process.
But the thing is, when the president was actually selecting his cabinet initially, he wasn't under any duress from other political parties to choose people that were not in line with what he wanted. I believe most of the people, and that's the problem that people had with him, that most of the people you are choosing for this particular position, some of them are not fit to hold office.
Yes.
But since we've seen you very close when it comes to matters campaign, you seem to be awarding them. Yeah. Let me come to you.
Would you mind just a little bit for that? Let me tell you one thing. And I'm aspiring to become the Kenyan president of this country. I worked in National Intelligence Service for this country. And I want to state this. As a matter of fact, government is formed before elections. You create a system that is called government before elections. So nobody from the Bruce in this country is appointed or nominated for whatever reason through any merit or meritocratic way. It's about who do you know, which part did you play, which money did you bring.
So we do agree that these were, most of them were just awards and to people that were close to him.
So who was IG, the IG, whose was he associated with before? Be honest. Our IG, the former IG, was affiliated to the previous government, right? Our retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm just giving an example. So most of these people were affiliated to some people, and there's a reason as to why they were appointed to be those specific places. So Mr. Ruto, who is the president of this country, views around and sees an opportunity for which to deal with the people that he did not want among those people. And that is why now he's recalling back some people that if you check those people that he has recalled, you will definitely understand the relationship they have. Because for me today to become the president, let me be honest. Bona, if you have a relationship with me today, Vivian, you have a relation to me today. I want to become the Kenyan 6th president. Guess what's going to happen? You are in my support system. Do you think I'm going to leave you for her or for him when I'm forming my government?
Now, that's the thing. We are just getting back to that particular point that I was raising, that most of these people were actually awarded because they were friends to the president and not. So their removal from cabinet is not because he wanted to remove someone.
They were either recommended, they were either recommended by someone or they were awarded. Because let me tell you, Raila Amolo Odinga, who in this case has been the opposition party, opposition is part of the government. It is not separate from the government. So the government and the opposition must always, in disguise, speak the same language. Let me tell you, from the knowledge that I know.
Okay, Vivian doesn't agree.
I also don't agree because, you see, what are people actually out on the streets to ask for? They're out on the streets to ask for services. You see, this entire conversation we're having here on political parties, others wanting to bargain for positions in cabinet. You see, professionalism isn't an anchor, or tribalism should not have an anchor towards professionalism.
But you can't anchor,
and that's what we have.
Yes.
Okay, and that is what this country we're having a problem with.
On the issue that Vivian did raise here, in terms of balancing the regions, what's your take on that, if at all?
You see, when Gen Zs come out and they say they're tribalists, I feel when you are appointed to serve the people, you should not serve people based on your ethnic extraction. So my point would be this: if a regional balance is to be achieved, the aspect of professionalism should be put first.
Why should we have regional balance?
Regional balance to have a face of the country. But now, even if we had the face of the country, and incompetence is still in this government.
Whatever brings the face of a country are policies. Let me tell you what we lack.
Very correct.
Is policies.
Now you're beginning to have the
it does not matter whoever becomes the president or whoever becomes what. What we are lacking in this country. And I'm telling you, and that is why I know from where I sit the weaknesses that we have had from 1963. So when I speak from my point of view, whatever we need is not even if any Ruto goes today and we bring other people, we have wrong policies that we need to work out on.
In fact, he's saying, basically what he's saying is, professionalism is what should begin the conversation.
Correct.
Because you can't come and tell me simply
so
by virtue of you coming from my home.
When we are choosing professionals, are we supposed to have in mind the issue of the region?
You don't have to. It should actually, let me tell you, Bonaya, I'm thinking of this because, you know, Gen Zs and part of us who are end of millennials, we are critical thinkers. Let me tell you the truth. And the problem we have today is because, let me ask you, what rationale do we have that I have to have somebody from my place who I associate with thinking that mtu wangu wako kwa serikali? Those things are past. What we need to have is policies that are working. Whoever becomes what is none of my business as long as my services are catered for as a Kenyan.
Okay, now this is the thing. You know, the president did talk about being tribeless, leaderless, but still, we do understand how this nation runs. And if at all, just like she pointed out when she started, is that, you know, most of this cabinet that have been, you know, nominated, you get that quite a big number of them come from one particular community. Already the conversation has started, despite the two of you saying, of course, you know, professionalism should actually get to supersede tribalism and regional balance and things like that.
Correct. Let me ask you, why would you need someone from your place to represent you anywhere if the services you need are at your doorstep? Today, I will want my person to be in the government because what? This government from 1963 has been, people are trying to fight for resources and like people are not following the policies that are working in this country.
Okay. And that's what is affecting
this country. That is
what
is affecting this country.
Let's come back to the issue of not having a leader, being tribeless, being formless, and being, I think he also mentioned rudderless. This is the generation that says we do not have someone leading us, and we are tribeless, which is a good thing, by the way. Being tribeless is a good thing. We need to get to a point where in this particular nation, we don't discuss you know, regional strong points and things like that and tribes. But the issue to do with leadership, because now without a leader, there's no way we are having a conversation with the head of state. Do you believe that as a young person in this country, this movement lacking a leader is a problem?
This movement lacking a leader is no problem. This is why. You see, when a leader is appointed or is surfaced from a particular source, that leader becomes automatically compromised.
Why do you believe that? Because that has been the rhetoric from you know, across board, and a lot of Gen Zs believe that You will be. Why would you be compromised? But if you're chosen,
you would be compromised by. You see, look at the various spaces that we have.
Let's start with you. Assuming you had been chosen to be the leader of this particular movement,
would you be compromised?
Up to this particular point in time, we've witnessed abductions. So if I mysteriously became the leader, they take me. And we've actually seen people actually dying.
Bonai, I want to
so the issue is disappearances.
Okay, so now if I go,
fear already.
There's no leader.
Fear already.
So if I go, there's no leader.
Correct.
It means if they eliminate me, they cut off, you chop off the head.
That is the
road begins.
Okay, so this compromise is not that you're going to be called to state house and have a prize, because as coming to the issue of principle, what exactly do you stand for as a generation? Because if we say this is what, and it's coming from a point where people now start looking at it and say, okay, everyone here seems not to be having a spine to stand on something and say, I cannot be compromised as far as having a price.
Already, the government has already sold fear to the Gen Zs. The moment you say that we don't want a leader, he will be compromised. Already, that is fear. Let me tell you.
But that's a rhetoric that they started, Shelley.
For me, I think it made a lot of sense at the beginning of the protests to not really have like a leader that can be identified, but to sustain the protests, to sustain the push for change, to sustain the conversation, and come up with direction. It is important to identify, eventually, it is important to identify some leaders because, like right now, okay, like if you go on X, there's talk of Occupy JKIA. Someone else is talking about Occupy, I don't know, Jogo Road. It's very difficult to know, okay, so do we go to JKIA or do we go, there has to be some sort of direction that galvanizes people together. It doesn't have to be one particular person. It can be several people, right? And even now as we speak, these people say leaderless, but when you look at it critically, you can see for this thing to start, somebody did something that triggered, Somebody did a video, asked people show up, people followed that rallying call. So essentially, that was the leadership at that particular time. The rallying call of, on Tuesday, let us do 1, 2, 3. So somebody spoke and people followed what the person said. Somebody said, why don't we have a concert to honor the people we lost? People listened. People said, we think it's a good idea, and followed, which means there's a leader. It's just that it was not like a democratic process where you elect or whatever. Somebody has just emerged. So when you look at this thing critically, you will realize that there are people who have emerged because of their influence as leaders in this thing. And they lead in their various areas of influence. Some lead on X because they have a lot of influence and they are able to galvanize people together, rally people together, and say, this is what we are going to do. And because people listen, they follow. So you may not be, you cannot say like the entire Gen Z in Kenya follow this person, but there are particular people who listen to these people and follow what they say. That is why somebody can say, I have released numbers of parliamentarians, call them, and people actually take the numbers and call. What is that? It's following the lead of someone. So the only thing is that it's not like a this is not a democratically like elected leader, but these are people who are still leading. They are leading in their spaces. They are leading in the areas where they have influence.
Why is it so hard to point and say, okay, this is the person that is actually driving this particular narrative?
Because I don't think it's just like one person. I think it's
just like you put it, because the Occupy Parliament, of course, was started by someone.
Yes.
And you see, and that was the argument before. Somebody went and said we should occupy Parliament. Yes. And people rallied behind that and said we need to go and occupy Parliament.
So I think it's a way of protecting oneself. You don't want to be the target of, say, police arrest, abduction, or whatever else.
Okay, then coming back to what he was actually saying.
So people would rather say we don't have a leader. But the truth is, people follow rallying calls from different people, you know. There are people who will tweet something and say, this is what we're going to do. And you just find people rallying or following, you know, what they're doing. So they will say we are leaderless, but in actual sense, when you scrutinize it, when you go through it closely, you will realize it's not entirely leaderless.
Okay, there are also people behind the scenes that
yes.
feel we're actually leading this particular movement.
Yes.
And they might not come out and say we're actually leading.
Yes, because they can't because they are not elected. You know, there's no agreement to say Bonaya is our leader.
Okay, just a second as we take a break.
To be very honest, you can't come out and say you're a leader because we have a common cause. What is the common cause? The common cause is asking for accountability of particular services that affect the entire nation. So you can't come out and say, I am the one pushing for particular initiatives to make this country a better place, because it brings us back to the people shall and the people can and the people may. You see? It narrows down back to the sovereign responsibility or the sovereign power belongs to who? The people of this country.
Okay. I want you to hold that particular point there. We'll come back and talk a little bit more on that particular. And yes, just try to understand to what end are we doing this? As we occupy every part of the country this particular Tuesday, demanding for reforms. At what point exactly do we start seeing this particular change that we so much desire as a country? And it's a good call, whereby now we put our elected representatives on toes. They know that we are watching. We want them to act. Continue engaging us. That is on our socials at K24 across all social media platforms. We'll be taking your feedback as we continue with this particular program. Of course, as we also take a look at what is happening on the ground as far as these protests are concerned. Don't go too far. We'll be back now.